I've always referred to the NC750 as the most boring motorcycle in the world, but in reality, it might just be about perspective.
To a commuter, this storage compartment fits a helmet perfectly. Well, almost. But to a biker, it's an ice chest that holds more than 23 Red Bulls with ease. To a commuter, this has a dual clutch transmission, just like a GTI. But to a biker, it's missing a clutch and a gear lever, which makes it incredibly boring to ride.
Well, I get to spend the next 5 days, or 127 hours to be exact, with the Honda NC750X DCT to uncover all of its quirks and equipment. I've never actually ridden a Honda with DCT before, so I'm keen to see if it's intended to entice commuters or make tough bikers soft. Oh, and then see how it stacks up on my biased scoreboard.
As always, any 360 shots you see in this video, like this, are shot on the Insta360 X5. And any POV shots like this are shot on their Ace Pro 2. Right now, you can get a free motorcycle bundle valued at $50 with either of those cameras if you order through my links down below.
The NC name hasn't been around very long. It was only launched in 2012, and interestingly, NC stands for New Concept. Honda wanted a different approach to motorcycling intended for the everyday rider. AKA, make it boring. Sorry, there's gonna be a lot of that. As a biker, it's my job to mock commuter motorcycles. Honda defined the NC by 3 pillars. The first pillar is practicality, which I guess means you get about as much storage space as a supercar with this frunk. The second pillar focuses on the DCT, so that it's easy for anyone to ride and approachable to everybody. Although you can still buy a non-DCT model for less money. And the third pillar is that it must have half a car engine, so that it is economical and it focuses more on low-end torque than top-end speed. So this supposedly has half a Honda Jazz or Honda Fit engine, producing 58 horsepower, but 69 Newton meters of torque. And it makes that torque very low in the rev range to make it usable.
And all of that starts at just $9,500 for the DCT model, which, thanks to Honda Motorcycle South Africa, I get to make jokes about its practicality because it threatens my manhood.
At least that's what my therapist said.
But a bike this focused on practicality has got to have its fair share of quirks and some interesting equipment in the eyes of a biker. So let's go over some immediate quirks I noticed on my first ride.
Here is an interesting quirk that I think commuters will enjoy. Bikers, please skip ahead because you won't give a shit. Apparently, a lot of the plastics used on this bike are made from recycled materials. These colored body panels, for example, and even the windshield are somehow made from non-edible corn. Personally, I think making E85 out of that corn would have been better use for it, but I'm just a hater. And the plastic inside the cubbyhole here is apparently made from old car bumpers. Most likely old German cars, because Hondas never break down. They just keep going forever. Now, it might look like an electric motorcycle, but believe it or not, it does have an internal combustion engine over here. And although it is crazy economical, eventually you will have to fill it up. And if you have a look here, there's no traditional fuel tank. Instead, to fill it up, you take the key out of the ignition, put it in this keyhole here, and turn it anti-clockwise, which pops open the rear seat here. And under that, you'll find the fuel cap. It also has this cool little arm that holds the seat up while you pump your fuel. But of course, that means that the weight of the fuel is further back than normal. So I'll get to how that impacts the handling of the bike a bit later on. But if you were to twist that key in the opposite direction, this little storage compartment that is apparently 23 liters pops open. So supposedly you can fit a helmet in here comfortably. However, I tried my dad's extra large helmet and it wouldn't fit. My size small Arai wouldn't fit, but that's because of the spoiler on the back and my camera mounts. But finally, I got my wife's small helmet to fit. So apparently you need a small head if you want to ride an NC. And also, if you thought I was joking about using this as an ice chest, there are actually drain holes inside here, so it would be perfect.
By design, it's got a very low seat height, making it accessible to just about everyone, including me at 5'7". The tall handlebars and its light weight also make it very easy to push around. How sensible.
The only automatic motorcycle I have ever ridden was a BMW RT with their new ASA system. And although it was very good, it was more fiddly to use than Honda's DCT system. This is very easy to use. You switch it on just like a regular bike. Turn the ignition on, hit the starter button, and it fires up in neutral, ready to go. Now, to engage drive, you simply push this button this way, and then it clunks into gear. Now you'll notice that it doesn't start to creep forward if I let go of the brake, and you can even pedal it backwards. It doesn't care. It needs a bit of throttle to start moving. Now you can override its gear decision at any point with these buttons on the left switch gear. There's a minus button by your thumb and a plus button on your forefinger, which I learned the hard way when I tried to flash someone and upshifted instead. Then if you want to go into manual mode, you simply push this button again, and now you control the gears yourself. Or if you want to go back to neutral, you push the button in the other direction. But the thing I like about this is if at any point you switch the bike off, it goes back into neutral. So even if you switch it off like this, if you want to move the bike at any point, you can, because it's in neutral. And that was one of the things that annoyed me most about the BMW system, because if you wanted to move the bike quickly, you'd have to turn the ignition on to engage neutral. However, that does mean that the bike can just roll away at any point. So to fix that, we've got a handbrake here on the left side of the handlebar. To engage it, you just pull it up, and if you want to disengage it, you just push this button here, exactly like a car handbrake. In fact, it even has a second caliper here on the rear brake disc, just like a car handbrake sometimes is. It's fascinating to ride as well, which I'll explain in a minute. But first, let's go over its styling. Although no one has ever talked about an NC styling before, so it should be a short conversation. It's green. I like this green. It spruces up the boring bike a bit. It has a modern LED running light. It looks sweet, not menacing.
It has seat fabric that you would expect to find on a boat. The riders' and passengers' foot pegs are one piece. How economical. It has a sun visor over the display. How sensible. And the tail light, swing arm and exhaust are all purely functional. No unique design required.
But maybe a quick edit can make it look sexy. Yeah, it just doesn't work, does it?
These clamps make it easy to attach my X5 to any bike, especially since the NC has traditional handlebars and even a grab rail to clamp to. And when they automatically erase the selfie stick from the shot, it looks like I have the budget for a follow car.
Plus, I don't even have to worry about making the camera level, because it automatically levels the horizon for me. I used to have to reposition my regular action camera 3 times if I wanted 3 different angles. But if I mount my X5 here, for example, I can get an angle of the road up ahead, the front wheel, and my gear lever foot all at the same time. Assuming this bike had a gear lever, of course. It also doesn't have much of an exhaust note, but if it did, the X5 would capture it nice and clearly because it has a built-in wind guard, which is perfect for motorcycles.
And with Insta360's intuitive app and AI features, it's easy to turn overwhelming 360 footage into something amazing to relive your best rides.
Now, I'll be honest, sometimes I get a bike that I just can't wait to ride, and the NC was the exact opposite.
If I could have delegated riding the NC, I would have. After all, I am a stuck-up biker addicted to horsepower and Brembos. I'm allergic to anything with less than 100 horsepower and right way up forks, so I was pleasantly surprised by the NC. It's effortless to ride. With the weight of the fuel nice and low, it handles quickly at city speeds. A little wallowy through turns at higher speeds, and unstable at slow speeds with the added weight of a passenger and fuel towards the rear.
In other words, perfect at what it's meant to be doing.
It's definitely not fast, but it has that little bit of torque Honda was aiming for, which comes in handy around town and keeps fuel consumption low.
Perfect for what it's meant to be doing.
For normal riding, it changes gears pretty much exactly as I would.
So I'm not sure if that makes me a good rider or the DCT a good gearbox.
And the shifts are obvious, but very smooth.
DCT with a passenger on the back is next level. Usually you have to try to be really smooth with your clutch control and your gear shifts when you have a passenger on the back, which can get pretty tiring. So with DCT, it makes all of that the bike's problem, which is really nice, and it does it really well.
However, DCT is not great for sportier riding, which becomes obvious very quickly. It's reluctant to drop a gear when you want to accelerate. When you put the bike into sport mode, it is a little bit better and revs each gear out a little more, but it's still not satisfying if you want something sporty.
In other words, perfect at what it's meant to be doing. Now, I know these right way up forks are hideous to look at, but just bear with me for a second. They're 41mm Showa forks. That's it. There's no adjustability.
The Showa monoshock at least has adjustable preload, but overall it's a very plush setup. It erases bumps I didn't think were even possible to delete.
The brakes are just as horrifying to look at. There's a 2-piston Nissan caliper on each side of the front wheel, and get this, they're axially mounted, paired with an axial pull Nissan master cylinder, and they even have rubber brake lines. I haven't seen that since the 70s or last week on a Honda, because Honda still haven't discovered steel lines even on the Hornet SP.
But there is a strong single piston Nissan caliper in the rear. Overall, the brakes are strong enough, but you can feel they're budget brakes. Your lever input versus braking force output feels a bit unpredictable. But you guessed it,
perfect at what it's meant to be doing. I guess commuters would like to know that it's not thirsty, averaging about 3.5 liters per 100 kilometers.
The windscreen is disappointing on the freeway. The airflow vibrated the top of my helmet, and I'm not even tall. But the riding position is very comfortable with a relaxed knee angle and close, tall handlebars. And the mirrors are excellent.
Even the tech department is simple.
It has a lovely TFT with 3 great layout options and a ton of info. Plus Honda's RoadSync app, which allows you to control music from the bike and get navigation on screen, for example. And it's all controlled with this sturdy switchgear, including a dedicated mode button and a funny looking joystick that is a pleasure to use. Not only does my wife like the way this bike looks, but she also joined me on my longer ride to evaluate the passenger amenities.
And here are her findings. Apparently the seat is comfortable, although it is a little slippery. She did slide around quite a lot. The foot pegs are in a good position, and she also liked the grab rail, although there is this cargo net hook that was sometimes in the way of where she wanted to grip. Also, she docked at points because there's no normal tank to lean on under braking. But most importantly, there was no headbutting. So ultimately, it's great for regular trips, but not as great for longer rides.
So the NC is intended to attract a different audience to motorcycling, which I fully support, and it's 100% working.
You see, I've had countless bikes around the house because of my job, but for some reason, This was the only bike my wife has come into the garage, sat on, and stood upright all by herself. I've had much cooler bikes around than this, but for some reason she chose this, which proves that it is very much approachable to anybody.
I only have one issue with the NC. In theory, an NC owner doesn't need to know how to use a clutch. They don't have to carry their helmet around with them when they're out on the bike. They don't need to know how to adjust their own suspension.
But they would need to know how to adjust their own chain. So why doesn't it have a shaft drive that would require zero maintenance? This is the perfect candidate for a shaft drive. Nevertheless, 127 hours later, the NC750X is back with Honda South Africa. So now we need to give it a score out of 60 to see where it lands on my sport bike biased scoreboard. Styling. The styling is sensible and practical, not sexy. 4 out of 10. Practicality. The NC should be renamed to the Practical 750. Name another motorcycle, not a scooter, a motorcycle with built-in helmet storage without a top box. 10 out of 10. Fun. It is a bit of a laugh, but it also gets old pretty quickly. 5 out of 10. Price. As a form of transport to get to work, this is pretty well priced. I mean, you can spend more on an e-bike if you wanted to. 8 out of 10. Speed. The NC does everything in its power to avoid speed, and yet it's still faster than about 70% of cars on the road. 6 out of 10. Sound. Usually I would say that a 270-degree crank would sound very good with a proper exhaust. However, a loud motorcycle would offend an NC owner, so we'll judge it as is. 1 out of 10.
Giving the NC750X DCT 34 out of 60, placing it below a Triumph Rocket 3 and above a BMW RT, proving that it is indeed intended for commuters and not die-hard bikers. Who knew?
But anyway, there is a whole playlist of videos just like this if you enjoyed it. Let me know if you would add the NC to your collection. Don't forget to claim your free Insta360 gift, and I'll see you on the next ride.